social emotional development for your school ager. My name is Jamie Lassane Spears, and I am the Family Engagement Specialist here at Child Care Answers. I have a 7-month at home, and I have worked as a preschool teacher and also a kindergarten teacher. I have degrees in early childhood and special education as well. So it's a really great honor and joy to be able to be here today and to share some of this information with you. I work at Child Care Answers, and we are your local child care resource and referral agency for Hamilton, Hendricks, and Marion County. There are 5 child care resource and referral agencies across the state, and we make up what is called the Child Care Resource and Referral Network. At Child Care Answers, we really aim to just assure the highest level of early childhood education and care for children in Central Indiana. So we achieve this by supporting families, community agencies, and businesses, as well as child care professionals who are getting started. So for more information, please feel free to visit our website, childcareanswers.org, or you can follow us on our social media platforms. We try to stay very active, and some great information will be shared on them weekly and daily. All right, so today we're going to dive into the social emotional development of our school age children. We'll start by just talking a little bit about that development and what that looks like, and then we're going to shift into ways that we can support our children and also their friendships, because honestly, a lot of what's going on right now in their social emotional development is their friendship skills and developing those social skills with others. So before we dive too deep, I really think it's important that we note or acknowledge that all behavior has meaning. While it might not always appear like there's meaning to our children's behavior, and we might not always understand what's going on, there are certain messages our children are sending. And the better we understand their development and where they are developmentally and what milestones they're meeting, the better we can understand their behaviors and the meanings and the messages behind them. We also at Child Care Answers have a few workshops on understanding behaviors, especially for infant toddlers and preschoolers. So I would encourage you to go on our website and check those out as well. If you're interested on more about that, you can always message me and I can share that information with you. All right, so let's dive in. What can we expect from our children? We're gonna divide it into 2 groups here. So we have the 5 and 6-year-olds, and then we'll talk about the 7 and 8-year-olds. So for the 5 and 6-year-olds, at this age, children typically just wanna fit in and are really looking to be praised by their peers and by their adults. This is the age where peer pressure starts to grow, and at times, your child's friends are going to be more influential than you are at this stage. And that's going to continue to grow as they get older and develop in their independence. They really just want to be like their friends and to please their friends. But at the same time, they're still going to want to please you as well. And you're going to see that and kind of that contradiction at this age. So children are showing more and more independence with adult supervision. So maybe you give them choices to get dressed, or maybe getting dressed is now their job. And they're able to start doing more and more tasks around the house. Younger children, 3, 4, even 2-year-olds can have small little chores like cleaning up their toys or putting their dishes by the sink. But at this age, it's really a great age because they still want to, again, please you and have that routine, but then they're also growing in their independence. So something like chores and establishing weekly responsibilities can be a little bit more exciting, and it's a great pattern to establish. So take advantage of this stage of development and start establishing a couple more responsibilities each week and see how they do. They are more persistent and purposeful in their learning. So they're excited to grow and they're excited to learn, and they're excited to dive deeper into that. So their brain is growing and developing alongside with their social emotional development and their physical development. And they're trying to learn more and really have a deeper understanding of what's going on. And while they love to play in groups and they love their friends and they want to be like their friends, this age is still perfectly content to play alone. And in fact, I would encourage some alone play every once in a while so that they can just have that time to themselves. Introverts and extroverts, all personality types need that occasionally. And I think it's important to just provide that space for children. And then you probably have noticed this if you haven't already, but young children this age are starting to test boundaries in a different way. They are growing in their independence, and a lot of that boundary testing is due to that. And also due to the fact that they're growing in their understanding of others too. So they're able to have a few more arguments up their sleeve than maybe your 3 and 4-year-old. They are better at working out differences and cooperating with others, but because they're growing in that and they haven't done it before, they also might come across really bossy and assertive when it might not be their intention, but that's how everything's coming across as they're learning how to negotiate and cooperate and to just stretch that independence. And especially when it comes to being tired, it can be really hard for children at age 5 and 6 who are just growing and learning in all these skills to control their emotions, to control this understanding that I still have to listen to mom and dad, even though I'm growing in my independence. So you're still going to get whining, you're going to get the occasional tantrum at this age, because when they're tired, it can be hard. It's hard for me when I'm tired. So think about your young children who are just now starting to learn all these skills. And then the biggest thing here when it comes to social emotional development is that they're really learning how to grow and understand more complex emotions. So some of these emotions might include embarrassment, even guilt and shame. These are feelings and emotions that they're feeling for the very first time. I mean, as an adult, we've all felt embarrassment. I think I have felt embarrassed a few times this week already, and it's only Thursday. But we know what it feels like. And I don't remember a time when I didn't feel that. Well, at this age, they're feeling all those feelings for the first time. And some people, we've grown and we've learned as adults just to shrug it off. And even some adults still struggle when they're embarrassed. So at this stage, it's important to realize that these are first time experiences or second time experiences, and they're learning what to do when they're feeling embarrassed. That's why if something happens, like they spill water, and they've always spilled water before, but all of a sudden, like everyone laughs and they storm off and stomp off, that's because they're feeling embarrassed and they don't know what to do with that feeling. They can see on everyone's faces that they're laughing, but they're not just laughing with them, they're laughing at them. And that's different, and that's harder to manage emotionally. So they're navigating that. And as adults, we're helping them with that. Okay, so the great thing about all this is that because they're feeling all this at the first time, you have the opportunity as parents and caregivers and grandparents to teach your child how to really value themselves and give them strategies that will help them make things right with others and or forgive others. This is a great opportunity to just start putting those little nuggets of wisdom and ushering them through those feelings and those experiences. So then you have your 7 and 8-year-olds, more and more independence, more and more expression, more and more language and development. They are definitely growing, and they're definitely growing in that independence and stretching it. So they are very capable to express feelings with words, maybe not all the time, because again, when tired, they might become more aggressive, maybe not throw a tantrum as much as just give maybe more of talking back kind of attitude with this, and especially when they're tired or if they're not feeling well. So just know that this isn't gonna just go away, this whininess and this tiredness and this maybe possible aggression at times, because they're growing and they're trying to make sense of it all. And again, think of us as adults. Do you still get a little bit frustrated or extra tired or extra aggressive when you're tired and have had a long day? So just remember that with our young children as well. And your child will still seek some emotional support from you at this age, but it's going to be a little bit less and it might look a little bit different. So they might like talk to you about it. They might come over to you and just be a little bit cranky, but they're going to be more cautious when it's at when like asking for a hug if they need that, or maybe even just like those cuddling phases are starting to end with your child. So just be aware of that and ask, do you need a hug? Do you need some time alone? Help give them those strategies and make sure that they know it's still okay to ask for a hug if they need one. And as they grow in their friendship skills, again, they're developing in that awareness and they're having a deeper understanding of what others think. So they're taking and understanding other people's facial expressions more, and they truly want that acceptance from others and that peer acceptance and understanding. They want and seek friends who share likes like them and experiences. So it could be maybe we're on the same basketball team, so that makes us best friends, or we both have a dog, so now we're best friends. Whatever it might be, they like to have things that are in common with their friends. And it literally could be as simple as I wore a bow in my hair today and you did too, so now we're best friends. They're navigating that and they're learning about what friendships look like. And so that's just the first stage of just trying to find people with common things that they have with each other. But with all this being said, they're going to start complaining about friendships and others' reactions because they have this hyper awareness of what others are thinking and they're starting to understand these facial expressions. So they're wanting to really understand what's going on. And sometimes they might read something and just be super aware that that face means that maybe you're laughing at me, but then that face could also mean that you're laughing with me and I'm confused and now I'm really frustrated and now I'm going to complain. So they're learning and navigating, and that's where we as adults can step in and say, hey, I think this because I saw this, and help them navigate that. And then along those same lines, they are hyper aware of what others think, but then they're also really growing in their independence. They have this confidence about them that can really lead to some overestimating of their abilities, maybe thinking that they are the star basketball player and they're never going to make a mistake because they're just so great and they love it so much. But then maybe, you know, they miss a pass and they become super frustrated because that high overestimating, I guess, overestimating of themselves has dropped all of a sudden. And so then they feel this extreme self-doubt. So they're just moving back and forth in that pendulum until they kind of even out. And so they're going to go from being really confident and independent with a sense of self-worth, and then go to over dramatic and self-critical at times as well. So those are some things we just can expect from children this age. This is something that we've all have seen. This is something that is developmentally appropriate because they're navigating and they're learning and they're growing in their friendship skills and their own social emotional development. So your child is really just becoming their own person is what really is happening, which is kind of fun and cool. They want to be like friends, but then they're also asserting themselves and realizing that, hey, you might like this, but I'm not sure I like that as much. I like this instead. So they're becoming more separate individuals and finding their place within their peers, which is, again, really awesome to see your child develop. And maybe you're already seeing that and you have seen that when they were a little bit younger as well. So as they grow in their desires to be more social, they're learning social skills like how to make healthy friendships, how to express their ideas, wants, and needs in a friendship or in a relationship, and then how to cope with these really complex emotions, again, like embarrassment or maybe guilt. They knew they hurt somebody's feelings and they don't know how to deal with that. That is a really complex emotion to work through, to feel that guilt and the sadness for the other person, but then maybe some frustration with yourself. Everything that goes with guilt is can be a lot to handle, even for adults. Oops, press the wrong button. Here we go. So as they're becoming their own, you're going to see and feel some contradictions. And if you haven't already seen these, beware, they will come. But what happens is that your child is establishing this clear self-identity. I like this, I don't like this. But when they do, they're going to start flip-flopping between self-confidence and self-doubt. I really like this and I really love to do this, but then all of a sudden it might feel like they completely switch. And again, that's because they're navigating what it means to really like something and to be independent with that activity, and what that skill looks like for them. And again, they're looking at peers and they're comparing themselves to peers for the first time. And so it's a lot going on. And we do that every day, I think, not even thinking about all those different layers. But this is the first time they're experiencing it again. Your children are also having strong emotions. Those are not going to go away. We all have emotions that can be really strong and or unmanageable sometimes, but your child is getting more and more capable of managing those emotions, which is really great because you're able to give them more skills to say, hey, why don't you just go to your room and read a book? And they're able to do that more and more by age 7 and 8. And then lastly, they're growing in their ability to cooperate with others. But because they're growing in that, you're going to see some bossiness, and especially as they practice negotiating and compromising with peers. So this will happen a lot with siblings, especially younger siblings, but even older siblings. So I don't have a school-age child yet, but I am an aunt to a few school-age children. And when I watch them, I feel like a referee sometimes, and I'm sure you have felt that with your own children or with children in your classrooms or children, your nieces and nephews, or just friends. So I feel like a referee, which, is all part of it. And I can see them as they're going back and forth of trying to decide what they're going to play and how they're going to play it, because this age is really excited about making up new games and new rules and trying to have something that's the coolest and the newest and the funnest. So as I'm watching this, it's really hard not to step in. But as much as we can as adults, to just take a step back and let them learn how to negotiate that. The more friendship skills and practice our children can have at home. Obviously, if safety is an issue and the fighting is getting a little too much, or they're just not coming to a compromise, that's when we can step in and help guide. But sometimes it's okay to let them be a little bossy just to help them navigate and have a voice. Maybe one child needs to stand up for themselves a little bit more, and another child needs to learn that, okay, it's okay to compromise on this, but maybe we can do this instead. So always evaluate what's going on, but always step back first and take a minute and say, okay, they can do this, or all right, I'm going to have to step in. And your children best at what point you need to actually step in and help navigate that. So I added this quote just as a reminder to always look at the big picture. So Dr. Lori DeSantos is a professor at Butler University, and she works with educational neuroscience and social emotional skills. She says, beneath every behavior, there is a feeling, and beneath each feeling is a sensation that drives our needs for safety, connection, and calm. So this includes also includes your child's social emotional development as well. And there's something that's going on all the time. They might need safety, connection, and calm in this school day, and then it carries over at home. Or maybe it's something that's going on at home that carryovers into the school day. And sometimes the behavior stems from a feeling of just needing to have more control or more attention as well. So it's just our job as parents and as adults to address those, to find those needs and help them, usher them through and find that connection and safety and calmness that they need. Now, everything we've discussed up to this point is really, again, like what we should expect or what we have seen from school-age children. Unfortunately, they're going to be bossy as they negotiate, and they're still going to have meltdowns when they're tired. But again, they're growing and they're more independent and able to work through that. So we're going to shift our attention and dive a little bit more deeper into how we can support our children's social emotional development, especially ages 5 through 8. Some of these might also work for your preschoolers as well, and for your 9 and 10-year-olds as well. But these are just some ideas that might support you. So to start, there are definitely some factors that can really contribute to children's feelings. And this is for all children of all ages. Some of these factors include expectations and inconsistencies. So when we set expectations and we're not consistent with those, that can really impact social emotional development skills and also just behaviors that we see at home. And then there's also the environment. So that's just what's going on at home, what's going on at school, what's going on the playground, things that are outside of you and your children, and what they're experiencing. Maybe they didn't have breakfast that morning, and so that's going to impact some of their behavior that day. It just depends on what you're looking at, and this can be not just at home, this can also be other areas and other environments they go to. So it could include childcare and or school. And then the development and temperament of the child themselves. Some children are just naturally more sensitive, and then other children are naturally more shy, and then others might be naturally more aggressive or assertive. So think about yourself. I know I was naturally the shy child. Every parent teacher conference, the teacher was like, she needs to speak up more. And so you know your children, you know who you are too, which can also help and not help sometimes. And that goes into the adult regulation. It is hard to help a child calm down when we're not calm ourselves. And so we'll talk a little bit about co-regulation and what that means and what that looks like here in a minute. All right, so we're going to dive a little deeper into some of these. All right, young children need expectations and consistency in order to help them establish self-regulation, routines, independence, and friendship skills. And this goes for most early childhood children, so 0 to age 8. And then honestly, it works for preschoolers, middle schoolers, and even high schoolers need some clear routines as well. So, I mean, even think about your day. I have a notebook that has a list of things I need to do for the day, and that helps me set my routines. So routines are beneficial. They provide clear expectations for times, like bedtime, screen time, or meals. And to set these, you're not going to be as I guess as strict as maybe you are with a toddler. Like maybe with a toddler, you're gonna say, okay, we're gonna brush our teeth, and then we're going to take a bath, and then we're gonna read a story, and then we're gonna go to bed. And you have those out, and then you start with the first 2, and you outline it very simply with your toddler. But with the school age child, you're able to give them more space for independent choice. And you might just set like bedtime means that you brush your teeth, you take a bath, you read a book, and then you lay down in bed. So those are the 4 things that need to happen during bedtime, and it has to happen within this time frame. And so you can help your child set routines, but then let them have some space in order to make those choices themselves. Maybe they want to shower before they brush their teeth. Cool. As long as you get it done, that's within the routine. Or vice versa. Maybe they want to read a book before they get in the shower. Great. Read your book, and then we're going to get in the shower. And so helping them give some space for that choice while having that routine can be very helpful for them. It's also important to be consistent as possible with setting limits and giving consequences. This one can be very hard, especially when you have a lot going on. I mean, I just think about my day with a 7-month-old at home, and I'm a little bit of everywhere, and I'm supposed to have this routine of feeding and sleeping, and it's challenging. It's challenging as a parent to find that as you're working and as you're navigating other siblings and your own relationships as well. So I understand, and I hear that, and I feel that. But it is a challenge, but it is something that does help, especially with behaviors, and especially when it comes to just helping them understand how to manage their own behaviors. So setting those limits is important. Allow space for those feelings and those, I don't like to call them negative emotions, but those feelings of upset, anger, frustration, because we all have them and that's okay to feel them. But the idea is setting limits on what you do when you're feeling those. You can't throw things at me. That's a non-negotiable and that won't happen. You can be angry, but you can't do that. And so here's the consequence because you threw something. And so setting the consequences, not because of the emotion, but because of the action, that maybe the negative reaction that happened during that emotion. So giving them time and space to feel, but then also helping them manage what to do with those. And when you set these limits and consequences, it really helps them be able to manage their emotions in different environments, especially with friends. Because, I mean, obviously we don't want our children throwing things at our friends, not even us, but especially outside the home. We want to make sure we help them learn how to manage those emotions. You can absolutely praise positive behavior. That's super encouraged. And then also telling them, I see that you're trying really hard. So giving them that encouragement for effort, and show affection to help build self-esteem when appropriate. But when these consequences need to be set, tell them why. Keep it short and simple, but they're able to talk a little bit more about it. And then also explain how this behavior has impacted themselves and you, or have them explain it to you. Because by 7 and 8, they're able to start critically thinking about why this is not okay, and how we can change and how this impacts others. And then lastly, I put this in here because I think it really helps us understand when we see our children kind of bouncing off the walls, if you will, that the American Academy for Pediatrics encourages at least an hour of physical activity for children 5 to 8 and a little bit older as well. And it doesn't have to be an hour straight, but they do recommend that they're outside, that they're jumping, they're running, they're really doing something that has a cardio value to it. So I put this picture of this child playing outside in the snow. Bundle up, go outside, throw snowballs, give them that space to let out that energy because they need it for their physical development, but it also will help with that social emotional development as well. So apart from setting expectations and being consistent, we can also help our children manage their emotional regulations, and manage how they regulate themselves. So with emotional regulation, it's all about modeling at this point, just showing them when you're feeling angry and upset, what to do, or when they are feeling angry and upset. There have been times, and we'll talk a little bit about this too, where I've been in a classroom with a bunch of school agers and I needed to take a break. And I didn't leave the classroom, obviously, but I was able to step aside and say, Miss Lassane needs to take 3 deep breaths. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths because I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. And they all just paused and looked at me like, what's going on? But then I was able to model to them that these breaths are helping me. And then after I took those breaths, I was able to calmly explain what happened and we moved forward as a class. And that's something that can happen very easily at home and with your children as well. Maybe you're feeling flustered cooking dinner and the children are even involved. It's just you and everything in the kitchen that you have to do. And you just say out loud, like, I'm feeling really frustrated or really flustered. I'm going to take some deep breaths. And your children might ask why. And it could be a good opportunity to get your mind off the dishes and help model some of how you can regulate. And then you can also validate feelings and share yours. So I see that you're frustrated is something you could say. I feel frustrated too sometimes. Or if something sad happened or they watch something sad on a show, like, oh, that is really sad. This is what it looks like. Like I felt this too when this happened and this is what I did. And so you're having a little bit deeper conversation, not just saying like, this feels sad and this feels angry, but you're sharing about how you can overcome, or maybe not overcome, but how you can work through those emotions. Offer space to be alone. I know that was something that I needed as a child, and I need as an adult. Sometimes I just need 5 to 10 minutes by myself, and children are the same way. Some of your children are just going to need some time alone so that they can take those deep breaths because they don't want to do it in front of other people. Maybe they're embarrassed because they're feeling that for the first time. So giving them that space helps them just be able to focus on themselves and not what others are thinking. Then practice that self-care and breathing. So if you do yoga, invite your children into doing yoga. If you do anything with mindfulness, invite your children into that. Teach them deep breaths when they're not upset and how they can use them when they're upset. And then also offer sensory outlets. And sensory is just the idea of engaging your fine muscles, your small muscles, and or your big muscles. Or it could be something like a scent, like lavender can be very relaxing for children, or eucalyptus, or even a sound. Maybe it's putting on music that's soft instead of, I don't know, whatever kids are listening to these days. So you can choose music that's soft, but give them some opportunity to just find their calm that is outside of themselves. One great idea is definitely to like have them squeeze a pillow or a stuffed animal, especially if they're very upset. You can feel that tension in them and you can see that building. Squeezing things can be really great as well. So along the same lines, at the end of the day, our children will struggle calming down when we are struggling to find our own calm. So again, this is challenging, but it's important to know that we as adults have the power to either escalate, increase, or de-escalate, decrease behaviors. So there's this concept of co-regulation that is kind of like a buzzword going around right now in education and in parenting topics. And this idea of co-regulation is this idea that you have a warm and responsible interactions that give and provide support and modeling to children. So you're teaching them to understand and express and modulate their feelings and their thoughts and their behaviors. But the key part that makes it co-regulation is that our responses and our interactions are warm and responsive. So to be warm and responsive, we have to try to be calm. And so I have 3 tips for us to help us find our calm. As a teacher and a parent, I have been there, I have been upset, I have been frustrated, and there are definitely ways that we can find our calm. And then there's some ways that might work for you, but aren't going to work for me, or they might work for me and they're not going to work for you. My first way is just what I said earlier, is taking that big deep breath in front of them. And maybe it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 you need to take, but just saying out loud, I am feeling frustrated right now. I'm going to do some deep breathing, and just do it right then and there in front of your child, even if they're upset, just so you can find your calm. Maybe you're not going to do it in front of them. You're going to say, I'm going to walk away for a minute and take some deep breaths, and then I'll come back and we can talk about this in a calm way. So there's that way you could help just finding your own calm. Another way is just you have the power to walk away. And it seems like, I just want to give you permission. I think it seems like sometimes in the moments that we need to fix this right now, you're talking to me disrespectfully, that's not okay. And you're trying to work through all this. Well, when a child is that upset at this age, they're not thinking straight. And at that point, when it's gotten there, then chances are we're not thinking straight either. So it's okay to walk away if safety isn't a concern, and just say, I'm feeling frustrated and I need a minute to myself. And we can talk about this when I come back. And just take a couple minutes to yourself. Maybe set an Alexa timer and say, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Alexa, set timer for 5 minutes. And then you both can just have your space. Because sometimes space is, again, just what everyone needs. Going back to the emotional regulation, maybe they just need some one-on-one time, and that you need some alone time as well. And then lastly, this one is another one that might seem simple and easier said than done, but I encourage you to stop the cycle of arguing. It can be difficult, and there's this idea of like, I said this, you said this, but then you did that, and I did this, and and you can get stuck in your thoughts and no one wants to budge. But then you have to step back and remember what is appropriate and developmental for this age. And they're stretching their independence. They're trying to negotiate. They're not going to do it well because they're just learning. And so we as adults have to help them understand what negotiation and what this communication looks like. So some ideas would be like, instead of raising your voice, try lowering it and just be intentional. It might seem silly, but like just try lowering your voice, either talking in a literal lower voice tone or even going lower in a whisper tone. Just try to change your voice and be intentional about that. Or just be really direct with your child. It's not okay. We're not going to do that, and walk away and step back from the argument and engage in a different way. You're going to experiment with these to find one that works, but try to use different communication styles. Because if you find yourself saying the same thing over and over again, then that's kind of a trigger that like, oh wait, I am in this cycle of arguing and I need to stop it. And children need practice to learn how to do this. We as adults, we do too, but we have more of the power and the ability to do it. And so I think taking that time to really think through and listen to your arguments sometimes, and if it is the same argument over and over again, how can you communicate differently and what can you do differently? And really just stop and evaluating that. Great, I'm just gonna check the chat box real quick because I haven't checked it in a minute. Okay, awesome. Does anyone else have a way that they find to calm themselves down during maybe a tense situation with their school ager? I know deep breaths, that's my way for any child, is just to take those deep breaths. Alone time, yeah, definitely. Spending time alone is important. So a huge part of supporting school agers and their social emotional development is supporting them as they navigate friendships. These are the years where we're starting to take steps back. We're monitoring more of the choices our children make in their friends, and we're supervising, but we're not as much interfering with the play that's going on like we would before. Because before you're modeling a little bit more, now we're stepping back and we're listening. It is important to encourage team activities. We want our children to be in groups and to try to learn how to make friends with groups. Some children are going to be uncomfortable with this. I know I was the child who was like, I'll play by myself all the time and I'll be fine. But my mom was very intentional in finding something that fit me. And then also, another great idea came up in the chat box, playing a song that is a family favorite. That is such a great idea. Just changing the topic for a hot second so that everyone can focus on something that they love. Great idea, Kimberly, that was really great. So yeah, encourage group activities and team sports. Right now, I know it's a little tricky with COVID and what's open and available, but there are options out there, even within your neighborhood, I'm sure, even if it is just going to a playground and just getting out there to meet new people. So we can offer support and understanding and guidance when problems arise with peer relationships. And that's a really great thing about this age is most of the time children are looking for that. They might not outwardly say, hey, I need help, mom, please help me understand this friendship, but they're talking to you about it more so than maybe your teenager or your tween. So this is a great time to just kind of drop all these nuggets of wisdom into your child's life when it comes to friendships, and in a way that's just listening first, and then you can share these values and expectations you have and why you have those. Maybe a friend didn't do something that was kind, and you could say, well, when friends don't do kind things to me, I try to tell them I didn't like that. And if they don't listen, then I go play with somebody else. And so you're sharing those drops of wisdom with them and your own values and expectations while listening and supporting them in their friendships as well. And at the same time, it's important for us to realize that we can't solve every peer-related difficulty, and that's going to be more and more during this age. And it might be some of the first times you as a parent are going to have to step back and know that your child is sad with this friendship, and I can support them here at home, but they're going to have to learn how to navigate that at some point. Again, there are exceptions, especially if it comes to bullying or safety, but there are just going to be times where kids aren't nice and your child's going to have to learn how to navigate that. And so helping them and supporting them through that, giving them words and encouragement, and just stepping back and letting them navigate that, which isn't easy. All this is easier said than done, but it is all part of the process. All right. So how do you support your child when they're actually going through a conflict with a friend? 4 tips here. It's, again, easier said than done, but this is a great starting point. When a conflict does arise, listen and try to understand how your child feels about it. It might be absolutely ridiculous, and it might even be about something that's not even real. It's like a whole make-believe storyline, and it doesn't even matter in any scheme of the world except in your child's eyes. And so even if that's the case, try to show them that you understand and that you're listening, and see what really hurt them. So you can say things like, I see that you feel this because of this, or yeah, it's really hard when people do that. And listen and understand and give those validating statements to them. And then again, you're dropping those nuggets of wisdom on them. So you're discussing what other children might be thinking, or you're helping them think about that. So what do you think your friend felt when you did this? Or how do you think your friend felt when they did that? And so you're helping them try to understand what other people are doing. And then again, you're sharing your wisdom. So sometimes it helps me to do this, or it's important to me that my friends don't say that. So I want to make sure that if someone said that about me, I'm going to say this. And so you're sharing it from your lens, but then you're also helping them understand. And maybe you're going to say it from a family lens too. Like, well, in our family, we believe this. So how can we navigate this together? And then lastly, we're not fixing the problem for them, but we are supporting them. We're discussing how we can figure out this conflict together. You can say, I'm not going to talk to the child for you, or I'm not going to talk to your friend, but what can I do to help you? Maybe it's I'm going to help you write a letter to your friend. And so I'll sit with you while you write your letter, but you're the one who's going to give it to them. Or you don't know what to say, let's practice. Let's practice what you could say. And then you can just ask, do you need my help? And so you're offering the support at home, and you're giving them the assurance that you're there with them, but you're also encouraging them to go forth and try it on their own. Again, in cases of bullying and safety, those are things that you're going to want to involve maybe the school, the other parents. These are just for general friend conflicts that do arise all the time with school agers. And then lastly, with the digital age we live in, it's important to talk about technology and friendships. And this includes gaming, social media, and just general technology and internet usage. Now, you might be thinking, geez, my 7-year-old doesn't have a social media account, but you're setting groundwork for when they do. And a lot of families do it earlier nowadays. Some families might still wait till they're older, but if you give your 16-year-old iPhone for the first time and they are allowed to download all these social media apps and they've never had one before, or they've never experienced it before, you're opening a door wide open without setting expectations. And so when you start talking about it early, you're able to start setting those expectations, and you're able to help them have a safe understanding of how to use the internet. And really, this age is the kind of the best age to start teaching this responsibility, because they're just learning how to navigate, they're growing in their independence, and so they want to do things by themselves, but they also kind of still want to please you. And so they're going to listen to your rules and follow them in a deeper, more meaningful way than if you were to introduce it to, let's say, your 16-year-old who might be like, meh, I hear you, but, and so this is a great age to start. The American Academy of Pediatrics does recommend that parents consider all the effects of electronics, so both positive and negative, and use some common sense when setting limits. So that would be, I believe that's up to families to decide what those limits are for their families. These here today are just some suggestions that you can do. So there's nothing wrong with your child enjoying technology with your supervision. But again, the internet can be dangerous. And so it's important to start this conversation now. So you can start with expectations and managing screen time with parent controls. I know a lot of school age children, especially my nieces and nephews, they love things like Roblox, Minecraft, or maybe they're on YouTube on different channels that are appropriate for them so that they can watch some movies or some skits. Or even people playing Minecraft, they watch on YouTube and all that fun stuff. You know what's going on better than I do, I'm sure. But with all this, there are parent controls and all these apps and devices, and you are probably well aware of these, but it is something to verbalize and to say. The first step to setting expectation is using those parental controls, making sure you set those on Facebook Messenger and who they can talk to, and then the games and Minecraft, and share that you did that with them because you want them to know that I trust you, but I don't trust people I don't know, and I don't know the people that are on the internet. And so I want you to be safe, and that's why we are doing this. And you have that conversation with them so that they understand that it's not always safe on the internet. It's not something that is, it's not always an option. And so then you can determine some family rules together. Now, some of these rules are going to kind of feel a little bit, I don't know, like the first time I read through these, I was like, is this really necessary? But the more and more I think about it, it's absolutely necessary, just so that you're teaching and they're learning from a young age how to navigate. So the first rule could be something like never give out personal information. So you never tell somebody your real name, you never tell somebody your address, and you never give anyone your phone number. Those are things we just don't do on the internet unless mom and dad are with you. And obviously there are exceptions. If you think about like us ordering things online all the time, like there are times you're gonna do that, but for young children, no, there's not really a reason for that. And explain to them that those are their private information, and that is something that is between you and your mom and your dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever is appropriate for your child. And then really other rules can include, and this again is up to your family, never post or trade personal pictures. So some people don't want to share their personal pictures, and especially if it's with a stranger, you don't do that, and explain why. We don't know this stranger and we don't know what they'll do with the picture. So we want to keep it safe. Only use a screen name and don't share passwords. And this is a good conversation to talk about like different types of screen names and what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate, because we all know the humor of this age group, and they might make a screen name that is more on the potty humor side. And so we talk about why that might not be appropriate. And so we're teaching them early, again, those things that we know as adults. We're not going to have, screen names that are full of potty words, but they might think that is funny and hilarious. And so we have to help navigate that with them. And then don't share passwords with anyone except for the people who are in charge of the device. So that would be parents or grandparents, maybe not even your siblings. Maybe that's something they want to keep private with their siblings. That's between your family. Never agree to get together in person with anyone, but online. Again, this is something that seems crazy to say, but it is important to start these conversations. We're not gonna meet people who we meet online. And if we do, that will be a mom and dad decision, and mom and dad will be with you, or someone you love will be with you. And then never respond to threatening emails, messages, or posts. This is a great conversation to start, especially, I mean, we all have been on Facebook comments or on Instagram comments where it is so negative and not necessary. And cyberbullying can really start with those comments. And so just helping children understand that if someone says something that is not nice and that is scary, don't respond and always tell me. And so giving those expectations. And then just some other parent supervision ideas is spending time online together, showing them how you search for things and how you don't search for things. You also can keep the computer or iPad in a common room. Maybe you always have the iPad in the living room when we're all together. Maybe it doesn't go in the bedroom, or if it does go in the bedroom, it's only for a set amount of time. Then you can also mark kids' favorite sites. You can use the bookmark feature online, so you don't have to have them navigating the internet themselves. Again, there's different parental controls that you probably are aware of if your child's already using devices. And then if your child says something that feels a little off, take them seriously. At the end of the day, they are able to have those feelings of like, this doesn't feel right at this age. And so if they say something to you, take it seriously and really investigate what's going on. So I did want to touch base on technology and friendships, like I said, because we're definitely in that digital age, and social media is something that's very popular, and younger children are wanting to join more and more. So setting this and having these conversations earlier really just helps. Just know that this is a conversation that we're having as a family, no matter what. All right, well, that was a lot of information. My name is Jamie, and I was your presenter today. It's really been a pleasure being here today. Thank you so much, everyone.